I bought it for $1. Alien woman couldn't believe I set her free. The trade station called Crossline hung in empty space like a rusted coin. Ships from dozens of worlds docked there, not because they liked it, but because they had to. Laws were loose, rules were flexible, and anything could be sold if the price was right. Evan moved slowly through the lower market levels. The air smelled of oil, metal, and recycled breath. Lights flickered overhead. Voices shouted in languages he did not understand. He was a human trader with a small ship and even smaller savings. Most days, he bought spare parts or old data chips. Today, he was just looking. Cages lined the walls. Some held animals with too many legs or glowing eyes. Others held machines that twitched like they were alive. Evan tried not to look at the cages with people in them. He had learned that lesson early. If you stared too long, someone would try to sell them to you. A loud alien merchant waved him over, showing broken tools and cracked power cells. Evan shook his head and kept walking. Then he saw her. She sat in a narrow cage near the floor, almost hidden behind stacked crates. Her skin was pale blue, dull and dry. Long dark hair fell over her face. She was thin, too thin, and her wrists were marked with old burns from restraints. A metal collar rested against her neck, dark and inactive. She did not look up when Evan stopped. A small screen on the cage blinked with text. Defective labor unit. Low endurance. No return. Price, 1 credit. Evan stared at the number. 1 credit was almost nothing. Less than a cup of station-grade water. He looked around. No one else was paying attention. Buyers walked past without slowing down. To them, she was trash that had failed to be useful. The merchant noticed Evan standing still and grinned, his mouth open sideways, showing flat yellow teeth. 1 credit, the merchant said in broken common. Take it, or I recycle. Evan felt his stomach twist. Recycle how? The merchant shrugged. Parts. Or, airlock. Depends. Evan looked back at the cage. The alien woman finally lifted her head. Her eyes were large and dark with a faint silver ring around the pupils. There was no begging in them, only tired acceptance. Evan had seen that look before. Old history videos from Earth. Faces that had learned hope was dangerous. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small credit chip. It was his last one. He had planned to use it for fuel additives. He hesitated. Buying her would make him an owner. That was how the system worked. He hated that thought. But if he walked away, she would be gone by the end of the day. He placed the chip on the counter. The merchant laughed loudly. Human is stupid, he said happily. Enjoy your broken thing. The cage door unlocked with a dull click. The collar around her neck flashed once, then synced to Evan's wristpad. Ownership confirmed. Evan felt sick. He crouched down and opened the cage fully. The woman did not move. You can come out, Evan said softly. She stared at him. Command not received, she said in a low voice. Her accent was thick, her words careful. Please state task. Evan swallowed. There is no task. I'm opening the cage. She did not understand. He could see it in her face. Evan tapped at his wristpad, searching through menus he had never wanted to learn. On the collar controls, his finger hovered over the options. Transfer. Punishment. Terminate. Release. He pressed it. The collar made a soft sound and fell open. It slid from her neck and hit the floor. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the woman gasped, sharp and sudden, like she had been holding her breath for years. She touched her neck, her fingers shaking. Her eyes widened, filling with fear. What did you do? She whispered. I turned it off, Evan said. You're free. She shook her head slowly. That is not possible. It is, he said. You're not owned anymore. Her breathing grew fast. This is illegal. You will be punished. I will be punished more. Evan stood and offered his hand. You can leave. Go anywhere you want. She stared at his hand like it was a weapon. No one frees property, she said. Not for 1 credit. I didn't buy property, Evan said quietly. I bought a cage key. The market noise seemed to fade around them. The woman slowly stood, her legs weak. She stepped out of the cage, expecting pain, expecting alarms. Nothing happened. Her knees gave out and she fell forward. Evan caught her before she hit the floor. She was lighter than she should have been. Easy, he said. I've got you. She pushed away slightly, then froze again. Her voice was barely sound. Why? Evan did not have a good answer. Because it was wrong, he said, and because I could. Her eyes searched his face, looking for lies. She found none. That scared her more than cruelty would have. You should not be here, she said. They will come. Who? Everyone, she replied. A loud beep echoed through the market. Evan's wrist pad vibrated. A warning message flashed and disappeared before he could read it. The merchant was no longer smiling. He was shouting at a security drone floating toward them. Evan cursed under his breath. Okay, he said. Time to go. He grabbed a small bag from his shoulder and slung it over his back. Can you walk? She nodded stiffly. They moved fast through the crowd. Evan knew the station better than most. Humans always mapped exits. He ducked into a narrow service corridor and pulled her along. Alarms began to sound behind them. Your name? He asked as they ran. Lyra, she said. Navigator cast. Not anymore, Evan said. She looked at him sharply. You do not understand what you have done. Then tell me while we run. They will mark you, she said. A human who breaks ownership law becomes an example. Good, Evan said. I hate bad laws. They reached a junction where the corridor split. Evan stopped, listening. Heavy footsteps echoed from the left. This way, he said, turning right. Lyra grabbed his arm. That path leads to closed docks. I know, Evan said. Closed means quiet. They burst into a dark hangar bay. Evan's small cargo ship rested at the far end, patched and ugly, but his. He helped Lyra aboard and sealed the hatch. The ship shook as external locks disengaged. Hold on, Evan said, sliding into the pilot seat. Where are you taking me? Lyra asked. Anywhere but here. As the ship lifted off, Crossline Station grew smaller on the screen. Evan exhaled for the first time in minutes. Lyra stared at the stars outside the viewport. Her hands trembled. You paid 1 credit, she said slowly. For my life. Yeah, Evan said. I think I got a good deal. She turned to him, fear and awe mixed in her eyes. Humans are dangerous, she said. Evan smiled sadly. Only to bad systems. Behind them, unseen, a silent signal left the station, a record of a 1-credit purchase that should never have ended in freedom. The ship hummed quietly in the darkness of space. Evan had learned long ago that speed was not the only thing that mattered. Silence and patience could save lives too. He guided the small cargo vessel past debris fields and through the thin rings of a dead planet. Lyra sat opposite him, still pale from shock, her hands resting on her knees, trembling slightly. She did not speak. Her eyes wandered over the controls and instruments as if she were reading a language only she could understand. Evan glanced at her. You need to tell me why they were chasing you, he said. His voice was soft, careful. I need to know what I'm running from. Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. She hesitated, then spoke in a voice low and hesitant. I was not just labor. I was navigator for my people, for a fleet. They destroyed my world. Everything I knew. Then they sold the survivors, me included. Evan nodded slowly. He had expected the story to be bad, but somehow hearing it out loud made it worse. He could feel the weight of it, heavy like a stone pressing on his chest. They thought they could erase us, Lyra continued. Our ships, our history, our knowledge, everything gone. Only some survived because they were imperfect or hidden. And now if I am taken again, I will be used, broken, or killed. There is no mercy in that system. Evan stared at her. He could see that she was strong, but also scared in a way that could freeze a person inside. He had never encountered a story like hers. Humans had fought wars, lost homes, but never had anyone tried to erase their entire existence from the universe. The thought made his fists tighten. Then you're free now, he said. I won't let them take you back. Lyra's eyes flickered to him. Disbelief and caution mixed in the gaze. Humans, you are strange. You risk yourself for someone you do not know. Most species would not. They only obey orders or profit. Evan leaned back, trying to ignore the tightening in his chest. Humans we have our own rules. Sometimes we do what is right, not what is profitable. She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head. Dangerous rules. You do not understand. They will send hunters, slaver fleets, enforcement officers. You will not survive. Evan's jaw tightened. Then I guess I survive by being smart. That's what humans do. Silence fell in the cockpit. The only sounds were the hum of the engines and the soft beeping of the navigation console. Lyra watched the stars drift by outside the viewport. Her eyes were wide and unblinking, as if she were memorizing the patterns, cataloging every movement. After a while, she spoke again. Where are we going? Somewhere humans can hide. Evan said. Somewhere they cannot reach easily. Somewhere people like you can breathe. Lyra gave a faint, almost imperceptible nod. You have done something no one else could, but you do not realize what has started. My freedom, your choice, it is not just an act. It is a spark. Evan looked at her, eyebrows raised. A spark? Yes, she said, voice low but urgent. You have challenged the rules of hundreds of systems. If news spreads, they will hunt you. Yes. But others who were silent, oppressed, may rise. Your kind, humans, you interfere in ways others cannot understand. Evan frowned. I just bought a cage key for 1 credit. I didn't plan to start a revolution. Lyra's eyes glimmered with a mix of sadness and awe. 1 credit, 1 small human choice, may unravel a system older than your kind. You cannot imagine the weight. Evan shook his head slowly. Then we move fast, and we move quiet. She studied him again. Do you know why I did not run when you first offered freedom? Evan shrugged. Fear, probably. Or distrust. Lyra's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. Both. And curiosity. No one has ever set me free before. To be free, it is frightening. You think you will be safe, but safety is a lie for people like us. Evan tapped at the console, plotting a course through unpatrolled sectors. I get that, but we'll manage. I know the tunnels and paths of this region better than any map. I can keep us alive long enough to reach somewhere safer. Lyra's gaze returned to the stars. I hope you can. I will not forget this. Human kindness, it is rare in the galaxy. The next few hours passed in tense silence. Evan monitored the ship, adjusting course, checking scanners. He knew the station authorities would not give up easily. They did not send hunters for 1 credit, not normally, but freeing property, even a single unit, it was dangerous. The records could mark him forever, and yet he did not hesitate. Lyra finally broke the silence again. I can help you, she said. I know systems, routes, hidden channels. But you must promise you will follow my instructions exactly. 1 mistake, and you will not survive. Evan glanced at her. Sounds fair. I follow instructions if they keep me alive. She nodded, then moved closer to the navigation console. Her hands danced over controls he did not recognize. Lights flashed on panels, and a small star map unfolded on the main screen. She traced a path with her fingers, marking systems that were silent, unmonitored, and rarely traveled. You see this? She asked. These are old human outposts, abandoned colonies. They are weak, yes, but unobserved. We can hide there for weeks, months if necessary. No one will follow, and no one will report. Evan leaned over the map, impressed. Not bad. I knew humans had history, but you know the stars better than most pilots. Lyra smiled faintly. I was trained to navigate without sensors. My kind learned to survive quietly. We remember patterns the galaxy forgets. You will need that skill soon if you are to survive being reckless. Evan laughed softly. I'm used to being reckless. You'll see. The next morning, the stars outside were streaks as the ship jumped through a short-range warp. Lyra had grown quieter, but Evan could tell she was observing everything. His ship, his mannerisms, the way he piloted. He wondered if she had survived this long because she judged everyone so carefully, or perhaps because she trusted no one. Either way, he would have to earn her trust if they were to survive together. Suddenly, a warning beep sounded. Red lights blinked across the dashboard. Evan's heart sank. Scan alert. Unknown vessel approaching. Asked. Lyra's eyes narrowed. They found us. Evan swore under his breath. Not yet. But probably soon. Hold tight. The screen showed a sleek black craft accelerating toward them. It carried no insignia, but Evan recognized the pattern. Slaver fleet markings. And judging by their speed, they were not asking politely. They will demand her return, Lyra said, voice tight. And if you resist, they will destroy this ship. Evan swallowed hard. Then we resist, but smartly. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, her hands resting on the console as if preparing herself for what was coming. You do not know what they are capable of, she said quietly. They are relentless. Evan looked at her, then at the approaching vessel. Neither do you know what humans are capable of, he said. Let's see who surprises who. The vessel grew larger on the screen, dark and menacing. Evan activated the ship's emergency stealth mode, a risky maneuver that could either hide them or fry their engines. The lights flickered. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Lyra watched silently, breathing steady, her body tense. You are bold, she said, and foolish. I call it necessary, Evan replied. We're alive because I do what I must, and because I bought a cage key for 1 credit. She tilted her head, a strange smile forming. A small human coin, and yet it has power. I do not understand your kind, but I am grateful. For now. The black vessel loomed closer. Sensors glowed. Lines of fire could have come from its weapons at any second. The hum of engines vibrated through the cabin. Evan's hands gripped the controls. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying herself. Ready? He asked. She nodded. Evan engaged the warp drive manually. The stars blurred, stretching into lines as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the pursuing vessel froze in position, unable to follow immediately. For now, they had distance. Lyra exhaled slowly, relief mixed with tension. You have survived the first test, she said. But there are more. Hundreds more. Evan nodded. Then we keep moving, 1 step at a time, 1 credit at a time. She looked at him, eyes reflecting starlight and fear. I will not forget what you have done, she said. And neither will they. Evan leaned back in his seat, his mind racing. He had saved her, yes. But he now understood that saving someone in this galaxy carried consequences far larger than he could have imagined. Laws, corporations, slavers, and fleets, all would now watch him. And yet, he felt no regret, because 1 human choice, 1 small coin, had changed everything. And neither he nor Lyra could see just how far that change would reach. The small cargo ship drifted silently in the empty stretch of space. Evan kept a close eye on the sensors, while Lyra studied the star map she had memorized. She had been quiet since the last encounter, but he could feel her mind working, calculating risks and routes that he did not fully understand. You are good at hiding, Evan said after a while. I didn't think we would shake them so easily. Lyra's gaze did not leave the map. It is not hiding. It is survival. Humans are fast, yes, but predictable. Most species follow laws, follow orders. You do not. That is why you confuse them. Evan smirked. I've been called confusing before. She glanced at him, her eyes serious. This is not a game. They will send more. They will not stop. If they catch you, they will not negotiate. Evan nodded. He had understood that already. Every light year of freedom was temporary. The galaxy did not forgive humans who interfered in other species' business. They entered an uncharted sector, one Evan had heard about but never traveled through. It was empty, with no major trade routes or patrols. Small planets and dead moons dotted the void. The silence was heavy, almost unnatural. Lyra finally spoke. There are humans in this region, she said. Few, scattered, quiet. They do not interfere with others. You can stay with them for a while, recover, plan. But you must move before they notice you. Evan's hands worked the controls, aligning the ship's course. How far? 2 jumps, she said. If we stay in normal space, we are visible. We must jump through hidden corridors. Old routes, abandoned gates. I know them. They are safe. For now. Evan leaned back. Good. I like safe. Lyra gave him a small, humorless smile. Safe is relative. There are hunters everywhere, even here. And they are patient. Humans do not understand patience yet, but it is the strongest weapon. Evan looked at her curious. What do you mean? Her eyes darkened. I have seen fleets wait decades for 1 person. 1 survivor. Humans live short lives. They do not know that time can be stretched. That a single being can cause fear for centuries. Evan swallowed. He had not thought about it that way. Humans were fast, yes. Clever, yes. But he had never considered that patience could be a weapon as deadly as a weaponized fleet. The jump was smooth but tense. Evan kept his hands steady on the controls. Lyra guided him, whispering directions, calculating trajectories that only she could see. When they dropped out of hyperspace near the first hidden outpost, Evan saw a small human settlement on the edge of a barren moon. Rusted buildings, solar panels, and a few small ships. It looked abandoned, but alive enough to be useful. This will do for now, Lyra said. They will not expect travelers here. You can land safely. Evan piloted the ship down slowly, landing near a small docking pad. He powered off the engines, and silence returned. The settlement seemed empty, but the lights in a few windows flickered faintly. People live here? Evan asked. Few, Lyra said. Quiet humans, traders, mechanics, scavengers. They do not trust outsiders, but they do not interfere. You can rest, recover, supplies. but you must stay low. Do not attract attention." Evan nodded. Low profile. They stepped out of the ship. The air was thin but breathable. The settlement was colder than the station, but safer. Evan could see why Lyra had chosen it. The buildings were simple, fortified, and spread out. No major roads, no patrols, perfect for hiding. A few figures appeared in the distance, watching. They were humans, like him, older, rugged, cautious. Lyra signaled with a hand gesture. They nodded, understanding the warning. One man stepped forward. "New travelers?" he asked. His voice was rough but not unfriendly. Evan raised his hand. "Just passing through. Looking for supplies and a safe place to rest." The man studied them for a long moment. "You have company," he said finally. "People who look for the stolen. You must be careful." Evan exchanged a glance with Lyra. "We know," he said. The man nodded. "Good. You can stay, but keep to yourselves. No trouble, no attention." They led Evan and Lyra to a small building. Inside, it was simple but functional. Beds, a cooking area, a few storage lockers. Lyra walked to a window looking at the stars. "They will come," she said quietly. "The slaver fleets, the enforcers, they will not stop. But here, for now, we have time." Evan nodded. "Time is good. We'll use it." They stayed in the settlement for a few days. Evan worked repairing his ship, scavenging for supplies. Lyra taught him small tricks for remaining unnoticed, ways to read the stars, ways to move silently. Evan realized how much knowledge she had, and how much humans had yet to learn about the galaxy. During one quiet evening, Lyra finally spoke again. "Do you understand what you have done?" Evan shrugged. "I bought a cage key. I freed someone. That's it." She shook her head slowly. "It is not just that. You have challenged the laws of hundreds of systems. You have shown that a human can act where others obey, that you can disrupt centuries of control with one small choice." Evan frowned. "Disrupt centuries?" "It was one credit." "Exactly," she said. "One credit. One small act. And yet it has power. Others will see it. Some will rise. Some will try to stop you. The galaxy will notice humans in ways you cannot imagine." Evan leaned back, trying to digest it. "I didn't plan to do any of that. I just did the right thing." "That is what makes it dangerous," Lyra said. "Most species act for profit, for fear, for obedience. Humans sometimes act for justice, for mercy. That is unfamiliar. That is why they will come after you." The warning came sooner than expected. Small drones appeared on the edge of the settlement, moving too quickly, too efficiently. They were scanners, mapping, recording, transmitting. Slaver technology. "They know where we are," Lyra said calmly. "They've traced the signal from the station. Your purchase, your release, it was recorded. They have used it to find us." Evan felt his heart pound. "How many?" "Too many to fight openly," Lyra said, "but few enough that we can evade them. If we leave tonight, we can disappear again. Into the smaller systems, the hidden routes, the abandoned colonies. They will search, but they will not expect a human and an alien to escape together." Evan nodded. He felt the weight of the chase settle on his shoulders. "Then we move. Tonight." That evening, as darkness fell across the barren moon, they prepared the ship. Lyra checked systems he did not understand. Evan loaded the cargo bay with essentials. Every movement was careful, every sound muted. The drones were still scanning, but they had not landed. For now, they had a chance. As they lifted off, the settlement faded behind them. The stars stretched into lines once again. Evan felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were fugitives, yes, but alive. And for the first time, he understood what Lyra had meant about humans disrupting the galaxy. One small choice could change everything. "Where to?" Evan asked. "Somewhere unobserved," Lyra replied. "Somewhere we can plan and hide. For now the galaxy is watching, but it does not understand yet. That will change soon." Evan gripped the controls. "Then let's make a change on our terms." Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting starlight. "Humans are unpredictable," she said. "And that is what gives us hope. The pursuit would not end. The fleets would follow. The hunters would track. But in the empty stretches of space, with skill, luck, and courage, they could remain free. And for now, freedom was all that mattered." Evan stared at the stars, knowing the next steps would be harder, more dangerous, and more important than anything he had faced before. Yet he did not hesitate. Because one human, one small coin, and one choice could ignite change across the galaxy, and he was not about to turn back. The small cargo ship cut through the void of space, its engines whispering against the black. Evan kept his eyes on the navigation console while Lyra studied the star charts she had memorized. They were far from the settlement now, in empty space where few traveled, and the silence felt heavy. Evan finally broke it. So, what now? We can't keep running forever. Lyra's eyes did not leave the charts. We are not running. That is different. They will follow, yes, but they will not understand humans. That is our advantage. Evan tilted his head. Our advantage? She glanced at him. Humans are unpredictable. You do not obey rules you do not respect. That is dangerous for them. They expect fear, obedience, submission. You give neither. Evan leaned back in his seat, thinking. I guess that is something. Something that can change the galaxy, Lyra said. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. One small act, one choice, can unravel centuries of control. That is what you did. That is why they are after us now. Evan swallowed. He had thought it was just a coin, just a cage key, just helping someone in need. He had not thought it could start anything larger. You do not understand yet, she continued. There are others like me, scattered, hiding, waiting. They have been silent for decades. Your choice may inspire them to act, to fight, to survive. Evan frowned. So freeing you makes me a target and a signal? Exactly, Lyra said. They will come for us, and for anyone like us. But humans, you do not fear the impossible. That is why you will survive. The silence returned. The stars streaked past as they jumped through hidden corridors, avoiding main trade routes and patrol lanes. Evan had never seen space so empty. It was beautiful, but tense. Every shadow on the screen, every blinking light, could be danger. After several hours, Lyra leaned forward. There is a human outpost ahead. Abandoned, mostly. We can rest there, repair the ship, plan. It is safe, for now. Evan nodded. Safe is good. The outpost was small, built on the edge of a barren asteroid. Rusted buildings and empty docking bays gave it a lonely appearance. When they landed, Evan shut down the engines. Silence returned, heavy and still. Lyra stepped out first, scanning the horizon. They do not monitor this place. Only scavengers occasionally. We will not be seen, but stay cautious. Evan followed, glancing at the abandoned buildings. Broken windows, peeling metal walls, and scattered tools painted a picture of neglect. Yet it was better than being hunted in open space. Inside, the main building was simple but usable. Tables, a few chairs, storage lockers. Dust covered everything. Evan began clearing space for their supplies, while Lyra sat up near a small window scanning the stars beyond. You need rest, she said finally. You have not slept properly in days. Evan shook his head. I can't relax yet. We are being tracked. Lyra nodded. Yes, but we are hidden now. For the first time in days, they cannot reach us immediately. Use this time wisely. Hours passed. Evan worked on repairing minor damage to the ship while Lyra checked their navigation systems. She moved quickly, efficiently, her hands dancing over controls he did not recognize. He watched her, impressed by her knowledge and precision. Finally, she spoke. We must plan our next move. They will not give up. They will send hunters, slavers, fleets. We can evade them temporarily, but we need more than speed. We need strategy. Evan paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. Strategy? Like what? Information, she said. Knowledge, records of the slave fleets, their patrol schedules, routes, weaknesses. Humans may be small, but if we have knowledge, we can survive longer. And perhaps we can strike in a way they do not expect. Evan frowned. Strike? I'm not a soldier. You do not need to be, Lyra said. Humans are clever. They do not follow predictable paths. They adapt. That is their strength. And now you must use it. Evan considered her words. So what you are saying is, we gather information, hide, and use human cleverness to stay alive? Lyra nodded. Exactly. But it will be dangerous. We cannot trust anyone. Not even other humans. Fear and greed have their own language. That night, as the small asteroid outpost lay under the faint glow of distant stars, Evan and Lyra sat in the main room, plotting and studying. They traced routes across the galaxy, noting where slaver fleets were likely to patrol, marking the hidden corridors Lyra knew, and identifying abandoned settlements that could serve as temporary shelters. This is smart, Evan said after a while. I never thought about it this way. Hiding is not just running. It is using knowledge, patience, and observation. We can survive. Lyra looked at him, a small smile forming. You are learning quickly. Humans adapt faster than others. That is why you have hope. That is why I survived this long, and why you may survive longer than anyone expects. Suddenly, the sensor lights blinked. Small dots appeared on the display, moving quickly toward them. Evan's heart sank. Scanners? Hunters, Lyra said calmly. They traced our signal. From the purchase, from the station, they know we are here. They will come for us. Evan's hands tightened on the console. How many? Enough to be dangerous, Lyra said. Not enough to overwhelm us if we act quickly. Evan nodded. Then we leave. Now. They moved quickly, loading the essential supplies onto the ship. Lyra checked systems while Evan piloted, her hands guiding him through maneuvers he had never attempted. Every movement was precise. Every sound was measured. As they lifted off, the abandoned outpost faded beneath them. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped into hyperspace once more. Evan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. They were fugitives, yes, but alive. And every choice he made could determine whether they survived or were captured. Lyra finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. This is only the beginning. Others will notice what you did. Humans will become more than they were. And fleets, slavers, corporations, they will hunt. But if we survive, if we succeed, we may inspire others. Perhaps we can change the rules. Evan looked at her. Change the rules? Yes, Lyra said. One small act, one human, one choice can ignite change. You bought me for one credit. That small act has power. Do you understand? Evan shook his head slowly. I don't know if I understand fully, but I know we survive, for now. That's enough. She studied him, eyes reflecting the starlight. It is never just enough. But sometimes, enough is the first step. We must move carefully, think clearly, act boldly. And never trust what the galaxy says is impossible. Humans, you are unpredictable. That is your strength. Evan smiled faintly. Then let's keep moving, one step at a time. The pursuit would not end. Fleets would hunt, scouts would trace, and slavers would follow, but in the vast stretches of space, with knowledge, skill, and determination, they could remain free. And for now, freedom was all that mattered. Evan stared at the stars, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down, but also feeling hope. Lyra's words lingered in his mind. One small act could ignite change, and he would make sure that spark did not die. Because humans may be small in the galaxy, yes, but they were clever, unpredictable, and willing to act when others would not, and that would make all the difference. The small cargo ship floated through the quiet reaches of space, its engines low and steady. Evan monitored the sensors while Lyra studied star charts and the remnants of old navigation grids. Every jump through hyperspace brought them closer to safety or closer to danger. They could not tell which. They will come, Lyra said finally, breaking the silence. The voice was calm but tense. Hunters, enforcers, fleets, the purchase you made, it marked you. They will not stop until they have answers, until they reclaim me or punish you. Evan leaned back in the pilot's seat. I understand that, but what can we do? Run forever? No, Lyra said. Not run forever. Survive, yes. But humans are clever. You can act in ways no other species will dare. That is why we will not just survive, we can change things. Evan frowned. Change things? We are two small beings in a galaxy of fleets, slavers, and corporations. What difference can we make? Lyra's eyes burned with quiet intensity. One small act, one human choice, has already changed something. You freed me. That simple act made others watch, think, question. If others follow, the galaxy will not ignore humans again. You are a signal. Evan shook his head slowly. A signal? I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to help. Exactly, Lyra said. And that is dangerous, because mercy and justice are unfamiliar to the systems that enslave. You have started something they cannot control. Evan thought about that in silence. The galaxy had always seemed like a place of rules, ownership, contracts, and fear. He had thought he was small, powerless. But now he realized the truth. Humans were unpredictable. Their choices were not bound by fear or law, and that made them dangerous. The jump to the next sector was long. Lyra guided him through hidden channels, weaving past patrols and scanners. The stars stretched into long streaks outside the viewport as the ship moved faster than the eye could follow. Evan's hands worked the controls carefully, listening to Lyra's instructions. Finally, they arrived at an abandoned human colony. The settlement sat on a quiet, rocky planet with thin air and little light. Most buildings were cracked or falling apart. The landing pads were rusted and unused, but it was safe for now. "This is good," Evan said as they landed. "No one expects traffic here." "No," Lyra said. "But we cannot stay long. The galaxy notices everything, even small colonies. We must gather supplies, repair the ship, and plan our next move. Then we disappear again." Inside the main building, dust covered the floors, but some supplies remained. Evan and Lyra set to work quietly. Evan repaired minor damages to the ship, replaced circuits, and patched the hull. Lyra organized the data she had gathered, mapping patrol routes, slaver fleets, and weak points in their search grids. Hours passed. They ate simple rations and rested when they could. Evan watched Lyra closely. She moved with purpose, her knowledge of the galaxy clear in every gesture. She had survived what few could imagine, and now her survival depended on him. "You were careful," Evan said finally. "I have seen humans careless before, but you plan everything." "Planning is survival," Lyra said. "We cannot depend on luck. They will not stop, and they will not forgive. Every choice must be calculated. Every action matters." Evan nodded. He understood the weight of her words. One mistake could cost them their lives. Late in the day, Lyra spoke again. "Do you understand what you have started?" Evan shook his head. "Not fully. I just freed you. That's it." "You freed me," Lyra said, her voice calm but serious. "And in doing so, you challenged centuries of law and control. Your act will inspire others. Some will follow quietly, some openly. And the systems that benefit from slavery, they will try to crush you. But the signal has begun. It cannot be erased." Evan stared at her. "So I'm a signal? I didn't plan this. I just did what felt right." "That is why it is dangerous," Lyra said. "Most species act for fear or profit. Humans sometimes act for justice. That is why you are a problem. That is why they hunt you." The silence returned, heavy and tense. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the small cargo ship and the two fugitives aboard it. Suddenly, the sensors beeped. Red lights flashed across the console. Evan's heart raced. "Scanners," he muttered. "They've found us." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Not yet, but they are close. Drones, scouts, patrols, they will not stop. If they catch us, they will destroy everything." Evan gripped the controls. "Then we move fast. Now." They loaded supplies quickly, checked the ship, and prepared for another jump. Every movement was careful, precise, silent. The sensors continued to blink, showing approaching threats, but none had landed yet. For now, they had a chance. As they lifted off, the abandoned colony faded beneath them. The stars streaked past as they jumped into hyperspace once more. Evan felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were fugitives, yes, but alive, and every choice he made now mattered more than ever. Lyra spoke quietly, almost to herself. "This is only the beginning. Others will notice. Humans will become more than they were. And fleets, slavers, corporations, they will hunt. But if we survive, if we succeed, perhaps we can inspire others. Perhaps we can change the rules." Evan looked at her. "Change the rules?" "Yes," she said. "One small act, one human, one choice, can ignite change. You bought me for one credit. That small act has power. Do you understand?" Evan shook his head slowly. "I don't know if I understand fully, but I know we survive, for now. That's enough." Lyra studied him, eyes reflecting starlight and determination. "It is never just enough. But sometimes enough is the first step. We must move carefully, think clearly, act boldly. And never trust what the galaxy says is impossible. Humans, you are unpredictable. That is your strength." Evan smiled faintly. "Then let's keep moving. One step at a time." The pursuit would not end. Fleets would hunt, scouts would trace, and slavers would follow. But in the vast stretches of space, with knowledge, skill, and determination, they could remain free. And for now, freedom was all that mattered. Evan stared at the stars, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down, but also feeling hope. Lyra's words lingered in his mind. One small act could ignite change, and he would make sure that spark did not die. Because humans may be small in the galaxy, yes, but they were clever, unpredictable, and willing to act when others would not. And that would make all the difference. The small cargo ship glided through the black of space, silent except for the soft hum of its engines. Evan sat at the controls, alert and tense, while Lyra stood beside him, watching the stars flicker past the viewport. They had traveled far, using hidden routes, abandoned corridors, and old charts that Lyra remembered from her people. They had survived fleets, scouts, and hunters. They had evaded capture more times than either of them could count. Yet Evan knew this was not the end. Every jump brought them closer to freedom, yes, but also closer to the inevitable confrontation. Someone, somewhere, was always searching for them. "You have changed something," Lyra said quietly, her voice calm but serious. "You freed me for one credit, but it has rippled across systems. Others will take notice. Some will follow your example. Some will try to stop it. The galaxy is no longer blind to humans." Evan kept his eyes on the console. "I just wanted to do the right thing. I didn't plan any of this." "And that is why it is dangerous," Lyra said. "Humans act without fear. They act for what is just, not what is profitable. That makes you unpredictable. And unpredictable beings are threats to a galaxy built on rules, contracts, and fear." Evan nodded slowly. He had realized that over the last weeks. Humans were small, yes, compared to empires and fleets, but bold, unafraid. They approached a small planet, one that had long been abandoned by most species. It was rocky, with a thin atmosphere, but hidden from major trade routes. It was perfect for temporary refuge. "We can land here," Lyra said. "No patrols, few sensors. We can rest and plan." Evan guided the ship down, careful to avoid detection. The landing was rough, but smooth enough for their battered cargo vessel. When the engines powered down, silence returned. The planet was empty, but safe. Inside the small settlement, dust covered broken furniture and abandoned equipment. Evan and Lyra made the space habitable enough to stay for a few days. They ate, cleaned, and worked quietly. Outside, the stars were calm and distant, indifferent to the small human ship and the two fugitives aboard it. "This is the longest we have been safe in weeks," Evan said finally, breaking the silence. "Yes," Lyra said, "but safety is temporary. They will come. Slavers, fleets, enforcers. They will not forgive. But we have time to prepare, to learn, to strengthen. That is what matters now." "And what do we do after that? Keep running?" "No," Lyra said firmly. "We survive, yes, but we also act. Humans can move in ways no other species dares. You have already disrupted centuries of control with one small act. You can do more. You can inspire others. You can change things." Evan shook his head slowly. "I am just one human. How can I change anything?" "You are not just one human," Lyra said. "You are a human who does not obey fear. Who does not obey rules that are wrong, who acts for what is right. That is powerful. That is dangerous. That is why you survived this long, and why you will survive longer if you continue to act wisely." Evan nodded. He felt the weight of her words. Every choice he had made, every jump, every evasion, had mattered. And now, the smallest act, buying her for one credit, had grown into something far larger than either of them could imagine. They spent the next days repairing the ship, gathering supplies, and studying star charts. Lyra taught Evan more about navigation, about reading patterns in space, about predicting the movements of fleets and hunters. Evan absorbed it all, learning faster than he thought possible. Humans could adapt, yes, and he had to, for both their sakes. One evening, as the planet's two suns set, casting long shadows across the settlement, Lyra spoke again. "You must understand, Evan. The galaxy is changing. Your act is a signal. Others will see it, some will rise, some will try to crush it, but the choice is yours. You can act, or you can hide. But hiding will not erase what you have begun." Evan sat quietly, considering. "Then we act," he said finally. "We survive, yes, but we also show others that it is possible. That freedom is possible. That one small choice can make a difference." Lyra smiled faintly, a rare expression for her. "You understand now." "Good. Then we move forward." The following day, they prepared for another jump. Their course would take them through a network of abandoned colonies and forgotten stations, places few remembered or cared about. But even in these empty stretches, danger lurked. Slaver scouts had learned to hide in shadow, waiting for a signal or a mistake. As they jumped into hyperspace, the stars streaked past. Evan gripped the controls, his mind focused. Lyra monitored the sensors, her hands moving over panels he did not recognize. They were a team now, working together to survive, to fight, to change the future. Hours passed in tense silence. Every blip on the sensor, every flicker of light could be a threat, but none appeared. For the first time in weeks, Evan felt a moment of relief. "You have done more than you know," Lyra said softly. "By freeing me, you have set in motion a wave. Others will follow. They will see that humans do not obey fear, that humans act for justice, and that is why they will watch you, and why they will fight you." Evan nodded. "Then we fight back if we have to, and we keep moving, one step at a time." Lyra's eyes reflected the streaking stars. "Yes, humans are unpredictable. That is why you have hope. That is why you can survive where others would fail. That is why the galaxy must pay attention." They continued through the hidden routes, jumping from system to system, always careful, always alert. Each jump brought new dangers, new threats, but also new opportunities. They found abandoned stations where they could rest, small settlements where humans had hidden long ago, and secret corridors that only Lyra remembered. With each day, Evan grew more confident, more aware. He realized that human strength was not in numbers or weapons, but in their cleverness, their courage, and their willingness to act when others hesitated. That was why they could survive against fleets, corporations, and slavers. That was why one small act, buying her for one credit, had become so powerful. One night, as they rested on a quiet moon, Lyra finally spoke fully. "Evan, you understand now, do you not? Freedom is never given lightly. The galaxy will resist it, but humans can make it last. You have shown mercy, courage, and cleverness. That is rare. That is powerful. That is hope." Evan looked at her. "Then we keep going. We survive. We help others if we can. And we never stop." She nodded. "Yes, that is the way forward. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. They will learn now, slowly but inevitably, and we will be part of that change." Evan stared at the stars, feeling the weight of the galaxy, the chase, and the danger pressing on him. But he also felt hope, stronger than fear. He had freed Lyra. He had defied a system older than most species. He had survived, and now he would make sure that freedom, that spark, did not die. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of danger and darkness, but also full of possibility. And in the small cargo ship, with 2 fugitives aboard, 1 human and 1 alien, a signal had begun. One small act, 1 credit, 1 choice had changed everything. Evan gripped the controls. Lyra stood beside him, watching the stars. Together they would face whatever came next. Together they would survive. Together they would show the galaxy that freedom could not be bought, sold, or controlled. It could only be lived. And humans, unpredictable and clever, would ensure that it lived. The stars streaked past, endless and bright. For now they were free. And nothing, not fleets, not hunters, not corporations could take that away.